My story tonight is entitled The Easter Egg. Every year when Easter comes around, I think of special times and things that went on in my family through the years. But one special time, it was a life-changing experience for me and my buddy Keith. And it happened one Easter. Keith and I had been planning for months and months of what we was going to do. We was going to capture the Easter bunny. And we made plans on what we were going to do. We was going to use an egg as bait. And we had everything all planned out, except God had another purpose for us. And it changed both of our lives forever. Mom, Keith and I were playing on the playground today, and all of a sudden he came up to me and he just closed his eyes and he fell to the ground. And he didn't get up. The teachers all came over there and they had to call an ambulance and they took him to the hospital. I kept asking him about him the rest of the day and they didn't know anything. Can you call and find out how he is? So my mom went in and got on the telephone and called Keith's house. She tried several different times. Finally, she came back. I just spoke to Keith's sister, Cheryl. She'd been crying. She's waiting for her dad to come back and pick her up and take her to the hospital. They've called all the family to the hospital. They don't think Keith's going to live through the night. He's very sick. Well, Mom, I have to go there. He's my buddy. I want to see him. Well, I don't know if they'll let us in, but we can go. So Mom took me to the hospital. We went up to Keith's room. And Keith's mom let me go in, and I didn't expect what I was going to see. Keith had all kinds of wires and tubes and machines hooked up to him, and he was still asleep. And everybody was crying. His whole family was in the other room. His mom and dad was in the room with him. The pastor walked in and told everybody to gather in the other room. He wanted to say a prayer for Keith. And so I went over there with them, and then I snuck out and went back into the room with Keith. I walked up to his bedside, and I placed my hand on him, and I said a prayer. I said, God, this is my buddy Keith. Please don't take him. I need him. We're going to catch the Easter bunny in a couple days, and I needed his help. I know you probably need him more than me, but please keep him here. I promise it will be good, and I also promise that as we get older, we'll do what you want us to do. Please make him well. And then a peace came over my heart. I felt as if Jesus just talked to me. He told me to have faith, and that Keith would be okay. And that's all I needed to hear. I went back into the other room, and the pastor was just finishing up his prayer. And I went up to Keith's mom. Mrs. Miller, Keith's going to be okay. He's going to be home by Easter. Well, honey, the doctors don't think he's going to live through the night. Well, I don't believe that. I said a prayer for him, and Jesus told me he's going to be okay, that he's going to be home. Well, honey, thanks for praying for him, but the doctors don't think he's going to make it. And then she went over and started crying. And my mom took me, and we left and started going back home. I told Mom that I prayed for Keith, and that Jesus told me that he was going to be okay. And that's all I needed to know. I have faith. She said, well, the doctors say that from all the tests that he's not going to make it. I said, Mom, you have to have faith. We just learned that in Sunday school, and I believe what Jesus says is always going to happen. So a few more days passed, and it was getting close to Easter. We went home and we started coloring all of our Easter eggs and making them all the different fancy colors and all the designs. We got up the next morning. It was Easter morning, and we always had our eggs outside to find. unless it was raining, then the Easter Bunny always found his way inside the house somehow and put the eggs in the house. We went outside and we collected all of the eggs. And Mom told us exactly the number that we had to find. So we made sure we found that many. I kept looking over at Keith's house, and I didn't see him or anybody over there. So after we took all of our eggs inside, I went over and noticed that Keith didn't have any eggs in his backyard. The Easter Bunny didn't come to his house. So I went over and took an Easter basket and put it on his back porch and hid a few of my eggs in his backyard so he'd have something to find when he came home. Then we started getting ready for church. Mom always made sure that all of us kids were ready first, and then she made sure that my brother and I stood in one spot so we couldn't get dirty. And then she started getting ready. So then she told us to go outside and wait. So we went outside, and pretty soon Mom came out, and she was so pretty. She had a brand new suit on and a hat and had a flower. Back then, when ladies went to church, they wore suits and hats and flowers, and they just looked really pretty. Mom checked us over, made sure that we weren't dirty, because my brother and I, we could always find dirt somewhere, and my brother could look at it and it'd be on him. And we were just getting ready to start leaving, and a bird flew over and did a drop on Mom's shoulder. So we started laughing, because this time Mom got dirty, it wasn't us. So Mom went in the house and cleaned herself up, and came back out and gave us another look over to make sure that we weren't dirty. We started walking to church. We walked back then. Church was only about 12 blocks away. And my brother and I would kind of just lay back a little bit because everything got our attention, and we just watched and looked at everything. And we finally made it to church that day. Meanwhile, back at the hospital, Keith's family was all still in the room. They were talking, and Keith's mom and dad was in his room with him and sitting alongside of him. Then all of a sudden, Keith just raised up in bed, opened his eyes. He says, "Hey, why am I here? What happened?" "Well, honey, you got sick at school, and we brought you here." "Well, I don't need to be here. I want to go home." "Well, honey, the doctors haven't released you. You can't go home." "Well, I want to go home. I don't need to be here. I'm hungry. Can I eat?" So Keith's dad went out to find the nurses, and pretty soon all the doctors and nurses all came in. Keith's mom and dad stepped outside while they were running some tests on him. Just then the pastor came. "Well, we sure didn't expect you to be here." "Well, I just got a call all of a sudden that I was needed to be here. I felt the Lord talking to me, and so I turned the Easter service over to Pastor Bob, and I came here as soon as I could." "How's Keith doing?" "Well, Pastor, you're never going to believe it." And she walked inside with the pastor, and there was Keith sitting up in bed arguing with the nurses. He didn't want those machines on him anymore. He wanted to go home. Keith turned to his mom, and he says, "Mom, did you see the two angels that were in here last night?" "No, honey, I didn't see anything last night." "Yeah, Mom, they were in here all night. One was standing in that corner right over there, and another one was right alongside my bed. In fact, he reached down, he picked me up and was holding me. When he did, my whole body just got real warm, like I used to be when you would hold me when I was little. And he told me, 'Don't be afraid. It's going to be okay. Just have faith.'" The pastor heard that, and then he called the whole family into the next room, and he wanted to pray. He says, "We just witnessed a miracle." So then pretty soon the doctors took Keith downstairs, and they ran some more tests on him. They didn't have all those facilities back then like they have now with all the fancy equipment and the specialized doctors and things. They could only go by x-rays and tests from your blood and a few other things. But when they ran the test the second time, nothing showed up. The thing that showed up on the x-rays before wasn't there. His blood work all came back great because the night before his whole body was starting to shut down. And it was all answered prayer. So finally Keith came home from the hospital. The very first thing I did was run over, and him and I just got together and we started talking, and we're planning for the next year how we were going to capture the Easter Bunny. Somehow we were never able to do that. Time just seemed to get away from us. We both went on to college, and Keith became a pastor. He preached for over 25 years until 15 years ago when he was called home because of a car accident. But I still remember those times, and my mom does too, because she still reminds me that that egg that we were going to use for bait, she couldn't figure out what that awful smell was in the house. And she went through every room in that house just looking to try to find out what that was. And finally, after about 6 months, she narrowed it down to my toy box. And she dug through that toy box, and there it was in the bottom of the toy box, stuck back in the corner, the Easter egg that Keith and I was going to use to trap the Easter Bunny with. Have a blessed Easter.